What is the stupidest thing you have ever heard out of someone's mouth? I worked at a bagel shop and I had a customer come in with a complaint one day after buying some Nestle chocolate milk from us. So here is how the story goes. We had a guy come in and accuse us of selling and charging him for 2 bottles worth of chocolate milk inside of 1 bottle when he only wanted 1 serving. I guess he thought it was a super large or something. We only have 1 size, and it isn't that big. His reasoning for thinking that. On the bottle of chocolate milk it says that a thoughtful serving is half the bottle, so he thought 1 bottle equals 2 bottles of chocolate milk and he only wanted 1. I had to explain to this guy that a thoughtful portion was just a recommendation by Nestle that he only drink half the bottle because it's healthier. And it's not that there are 2 chocolate milk bottles in the 1 bottle he bought. Then he told us we should be less confusing, and then I had to explain to him that we do not own Nestle and do not have a chocolate milk factory in the back of the shop where we make and produce the chocolate milk. Then he said he no longer wanted it because he is hearing now that it is not fresh, so he tried to get a refund on a half-drunk chocolate milk and I had to explain to him that no, we cannot do that. And then he left in a huff. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it really is true. People this stupid exist in our world as members of society. I answer the phones and triage calls at a vet hospital. Had a lady call panicking because she was sure her dog's heart had exploded after he ran into a stake in the ground and hit his chest and yelped. They then walked a half a mile home. No, she didn't carry him, and he was just calmly watching her while she was screaming into the phone. But how do I know his heart didn't explode? Well, ma'am, it sounds like he's alive, so that's a pretty good clue. Or the family sobbing because the daughter fed their dog a bagel with locks on it, then googled can dogs eat raw salmon and found some obscure deadly parasite dogs catching salmon in the wild can get and were positive the dog was actively dying. She made me confer with 2 separate doctors because she didn't believe me, then didn't believe the first doctor, then finally felt silly when the second doctor agreed human-grade locks and wild-caught raw salmon are not the same thing at all. Or the I took my dog's medicine, what do I do? You have to call your own doctor. We only deal with veterinary medicine, but it was a veterinary medicine, yes, and you are a human. Working at a vet's office has really made me realize humans are way dumber than I ever imagined. Edited to add, since so many people were unaware vets legitimately have no idea about humans taking their animals' meds, I edited the conversation for brevity. There were several more interactions before this, with us telling the woman to call her doctor, her saying no, it was her dog's medicine, so we needed to tell her what to do, culminating in the above and only ending after we informed her she was a human. I have actually taken another call where a client called to say she accidentally took her dog's medicine. I explained we can't tell her what to do, she'd have to call her doctor. She didn't disagree and asked me if it was a medicine also used for humans. I was able to tell her no, Apoquel was only for dogs and we honestly have no idea how it might affect humans, so maybe poison control was the best bet. She thanked me and followed my advice, and I don't laugh at that interaction since the woman was aware she was a human and asked reasonable questions. Lady above, on the other hand, insisted we treat her despite us saying we only treated cats and dogs, until we finally had to forcefully inform her she was a human. That was what made the interaction so dumb to me. I asked my student why she missed 5 weeks of class and she said while looking me dead in the eye that she had a nosebleed. Edit, this was a college student and I thought she dropped the class. She showed up to my office 24 hours before the final asking for extra credit but not having any of the work done. She did not make any prior attempt to contact me or the school about accommodations. I saw her regularly around the building and she was attended her other classes. To everyone claiming they someone know the whole situation and this is a disability issue, it may or may not have been. I'm not a doctor, and all she told me was she had a nosebleed. The lack of attendance or reason why wasn't the issue. The issue is the impossibility of a student making up 5 weeks worth of lectures/projects/homework in 24 hours and expecting me to figure that out for her at the drop of the hat. Pro tip: contact your professors if you're having any issues. They are literally there because they want you to learn. They will help. But you need to tell them you need help. There is a certain point, like 24 hours prior to the final, that no one can do anything. Edit 2. Please keep sharing your nosebleed stories. Who knew there was so much camaraderie around the topic? Sigh. I don't know why people think they can say this. I'm sorry this happened. When I was about a year old, a person told my mom that I was born the way I was born because my mom was pregnant with me at her and my father's wedding, and that she should feel ashamed because I'm the one paying for her sins. My mom had a healthy pregnancy and with me. But a few hours into being in labor, things went downhill fast. This was 1989 to 1990, so the technology wasn't really there to catch it. An emergency C-section was done. And I was born basically dying. I wasn't breathing. The hospital I was born at couldn't take care of me. They didn't even know what I had, but one it was most likely my heart. Children's in Chicago said they'd take me. I was not only born with heart issues, they found I was born with 5 congenital heart defects and 2 congenital lung defects. I had my first open heart surgery when I was about 10 hours old. I have many other health issues. I've had over 20 surgeries. And I'm on day 138 in the hospital waiting for a heart bilateral/lung transplant. On a similar note, I've had people tell me that I should have eaten better and exercise, that I put myself in this situation. Even though I explained it's because I was born with it. One more story and I'll be done. Haha. About 4 years ago I had an appointment with my congenital heart defects cardio DR. It's in the same office as all the other cardio DRs, so I'm usually the youngest waiting. My mom was with me for this appointment. And we started talking with the people in our section of the waiting room. My mom went to get up to use the restroom and the woman next to me said it was nice I was with my mom for her appointment. So I told her I was the patient. She asked a few questions about my health. Which I don't mind doing because I love advocating and telling people about congenital heart defects. It's the #1 birth defect worldwide and most people don't know the real facts. She goes on to tell me about her husband and how he recently had a stent placed during a heart cath, through the groin, and a catheter is used to get to the heart. She told me how her husband's stent placement was more serious than my open heart surgeries. I've had 4 total, and that I'm exaggerating because a baby can't be that sick, and if they are, it's less invasive than I'm saying that it was. It's not a contest. But I'm pretty sure the fact I wasn't breathing when I was born and couldn't breathe on my own, and had life-saving open heart surgery at about 10 hours old is pretty damn serious. More so than a stent placed through the groin. Oh my god, you just reminded me of a customer I had one time. She ordered a 3-piece chicken strip meal and then stormed up to the counter and complained that there wasn't enough for 2 people. I asked her if she meant to order the 6-piece, and she said no, she meant to order the 3-piece, but there wasn't 2 boxes for them to share. I kind of looked at her, having no idea at that point what she was talking about. So did you mean to order 2 3-piece meals? She again insisted that no, she wanted 1 3-piece meal that had 2 boxes and was big enough to share. After arguing for several minutes on the semantics of what 3 pieces of chicken entailed, I literally had to end the conversation by saying, "Ma'am, I have no idea what you're asking for. The 3-piece meal has 3 pieces of chicken." She then insisted that I should have given her 6 pieces of chicken in her 3-piece meal since it was for sharing. Which is the 6-piece meal if you're doing the math with me? I told her that if she bought a 3-piece meal, she gets 3 pieces of chicken, and if she wants the 6-piece meal, she need to buy that one. She stormed away. No idea what the fuck she was thinking. Top 5 from working a pet store. Had a guy come in and want a bed of fish. I noticed he has bought a few and asked what happened. He said they died, but because he didn't give them enough light. Asked what food he feeds them, he looked confused and said betta fish don't need food, bettas are like plants and absorb light to get energy to live. Had to explain they are a fish and do not photosynthesize to live and need food. Husband came in and asked why his expensive fish were acting odd after cleaning the fish tank. His wife dumped 2 cups of bleach in it thinking it will kill the algae and bacteria but not the fish. Had a guy come in and proudly say he uses a regular light bulb for his snake, it's so much cheaper and easier to replace and we just scam people for our fancy bulbs. Had a woman come in with a very scared dog asking for vet advice about skin tags on dogs and how to remove them. She was trying to cut off her male dog's nipples and wondered why the dog was now scared. Had a woman with her 2 kids come in and point at my turtle tank and tell them, "Looks kids, a sea turtle baby. As it grows it will change shape to live in the ocean." The little boy just looked at his mom in horror and responded, Mom, I don't think that's how it works." In a biology dissecting lab, I didn't see our rat yet and heard the guy I was paired with say, "Oh man, this poor rat has some serious tumors." The professor and myself were curious and came to look, saw no tumors. Asked where, he say, "Them right there, it's huge." Guy was pointing at this rat's testicles. I'm late to the party, so this one's for those who browse by new. I was in beauty school and I found out I was pregnant about a week or 2 in. Of course all the other moms in my class were always jumping in and telling me about their experiences being pregnant. There was one girl who had her baby at 15 or 16 and she was always the most vocal about her experience, usually doubting my symptoms because she felt things differently. For example, she thought I was using my pregnancy as an excuse to be an emotional bitch because she didn't have mood swings. Yeah, because you were a teenager already going through mood swings, girl. The most outrageous one, however, was when I was having one of my many hot flashes. I was about 4 or 5 months pregnant at this point and I was dealing with a big hot flash, fanning myself, sweating, etc. This chick deadass shakes her head at me and says, "I didn't get that when I was pregnant." "Are you sure you're pregnant? Maybe you're going through menopause." I was 26 and most definitely pregnant. I was already showing. The entire class gave her a collective seriously. TLDR at bottom, first, as painful as it is to say and share, which I don't mind anymore because I deserve it, this is how far gone I was. And I remember in the peak of it all in 2017, I went to a Trump rally because my dad took me, and I won't lie, I genuinely had a good time. Everyone did the wave around the stadium with the signs and we sang, and I was 20 to 30 feet from Trump at one point, which was mind-blowing to a high schooler, and as a Texan I grew up in a conservative family, but I lost faith. More and more as time went on, and my own father, who should show me what life is really like, said things like Hillary Clinton is responsible for the deaths of many and Trump is the new Reagan and the best, etc. And I remember specifically, Trump said something like, "Next week we will be releasing proof of Hillary's email scheme and show what she really is," the week before election. And nothing. He then lied and said he won when he was winning, and then when the mail-in votes came in, argued that he won and fought for months with it, and the Capitol incident made me cringe. Trump and his son watched it go down on the news in a big outdoor tent area and did nothing soon enough to stop it. I will admit I'm one of those who hates being wrong and will go till the ends of the earth to prove that I'm right, but I'll come forward and say I fucked up, LMAO. TLDR, saw that Trump lied about releasing Clinton emails and proof of her corruption and lied about winning and kept fighting it and never admitted to being wrong. Something was always someone else's fault and not doing anything to stop the Capitol incident soon enough. Let me just put the stupidest thing that ever came out of my mouth here. Many years ago, when my brain was less developed, I went to a zoo and they had a lot of science exhibits on the premises. There was one guy who had a booth with a specialized telescope that you could look at the sun, and at the moment that I was passing by, some planet was in front of the sun and the guy was really excited to let me see it as well. Maybe it was too mesmerizing for my brain, cause after a while I asked him dead serious, "So any idea when I can see the Earth pass by in front of the sun?" The guy just gave me a blank stare for a few seconds and I was wondering if I had said anything offensive. He still wasn't sure if I was being serious and we just kinda locked gazes for a bit longer, and he slowly opens his mouth and says, "Maybe at some point after we colonize Mars." I was like, okay cool I guess, not really comprehending how this is related to my question. It was only when I started walking onwards that I realized the level of stupidity that escaped my mouth. I still blame the UV radiation that must have made me so dumb at that moment. My neighbor is a gold mine. Her latest is that Fossey worked with Pfizer to create COVID in the Chinese lab and test it on the public. Trump found out, and to protect him from the Chinese, the military helped to fake the election results to the public, and that Trump is still president but is hiding until they bring down Fossey. Also, somehow the Jews are involved, but I wasn't terribly clear on that point. If I understood correctly, the Jews were actually the good guys for a change, as they used their Jewy superpowers to assist the military. Also, FYI, none of Biden's executive orders need to be followed since he's not really president. She also claims that the scientist that proved COVID can be cured by HCQ was killed by the pharma industry. Last week she was warning us that Antifa was organizing in our town, of 6,000 people, to use this as a base of operations for their attacks. Her evidence was that she saw 2 people at City Market with dreadlocks. I'm like, lady, I don't care, just get rid of the dead cottonwoods about to fall on our house, again. I'm probably too late for this to be seen, but I have a good one, and it was said by me. About 10 years ago my best friend was over and a family friend was over as well. My mom and I had been chatting with them for about an hour when the 3 of them started talking about the new local Raptor Center. They noticed that I had become uncharacteristically quiet and pensive. My best friend and my mom know me all too well and realized that the reason I was so checked out of the conversation was because I thought they were talking about velociraptors. Yes, dinosaurs. There were roughly 45 seconds to 2 minutes of my life where I was in stunned awe at the fact that my town had a Jurassic Park. I remember thinking about how I didn't know about this already and wondering how they were going to keep us all safe from the dinosaurs. An entire scenario and a whole new world played out in my head. I even remember being shocked, but thinking it made perfect sense because of how it happened in the movie, seeming perfectly reasonable. The whole extraction from the amber and eggs and all that. It was a wild ride for me. Years later I ended up volunteering at the Raptor Rehab Center. There weren't any dinosaurs. I went on a date with a chick in Poland a few years ago. She was super intelligent, very open, even traveling to Mosul after it was liberated by the Kurds. A female Westerner casually traveling to Mosul with a few Kurdish companions, that's ballsy. Thought she was so cool. That was until, she said the Jews were complicit in the Holocaust. I was so shocked, even slamming my beer down and yelling what? But then it led me down this rabbit hole, where Poland was wedged between a rock and a hard place with what to believe. The Nazis told them it was the Jews' fault that World War II was happening. What they didn't know was that the Nazis were actually massacring the Poles. The Nazis also told them via propaganda that the Jews were to blame for the Soviet incursion. So when the Soviets invaded, the Polish thought it was the Jews who brought this on them. What they didn't know was that there were less than like 1% of Jews in the Soviet Union, and they had very few positions of power. Still, she negated any and all intelligence when I heard it face with tears of joy. Someone trying to explain the whole 5G and chips conspiracies to me. I studied electrical engineering and telecommunications in HS. It's a complete fucking nonsense. There is only a certain bandwidth on which cell phone signals can operate, so that the frequencies don't fuck with other stuff that needs them. Telecompanies literally buy and sell frequencies to each other so that their services don't cancel each other out. That's why your microwave blocks signal, because the structure cancels out the signal. Chips in humans aren't that real either. And why the fuck would they need them if they can track you down even when you're not connected to the internet? You literally carry a phone that is a tracking device, why would they need microchips? If you reconnected to a close cell tower, that cell tower has your name and number in its database. Your phone is literally seen by like 3 other cell towers, but connects only to the one with the best connection. Your phone is constantly shouting its name and details to the transceivers around it. If the operator wants to triangulate your position based on the info from transceiver registries and your phone's response time to 3 towers, they absolutely can. That's why drug dealers have phones that have removable battery that they use during their business hours only.